In Los Angeles, Mayor Karen Bass looking to win re-election. She faces two main competitors from both sides of the political spectrum, including former reality television star, Republican Spencer Pratt. If no one wins a majority of the vote today, it will move to a runoff in November. The governor's race, meanwhile, has more than 50 candidates from both parties. California puts all of them on one ballot, with the top two finishers moving on to the general election regardless of party. That's what they call the jungle primary. The leading Democrats in that race, former Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra and billionaire Tom Steyer. The Republican side includes former Fox News host Steve Hilton. After the 2024 presidential election, CEO of the Messina Group and former White House Deputy Chief of Staff to President Obama, Jim Messina, began traveling the country to talk with Democratic candidates, organizers, and strategists. Through those conversations, he says he learned Democrats are too comfortable running conventional campaigns using outdated rules and complacency, in what led to a Republican sweep. In his last installment of the three-part series Myth-Busting Before the Midterms, Jim is breaking down four more myths that impacted Democrats throughout the last presidential election cycle, ones he worries are, again, seeping into the party's collective thinking for the years ahead. And Jim Messina joins us now. He also, of course, ran President Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. Jim, you are up very, very early out west. We appreciate you doing that, but for good reason. A busy day in California. Before we get into your reporting there and what you gathered about the Democratic Party and strategy looking ahead to the midterms, let's take a look at those races today. If you can kind of handicap them for our viewers who maybe haven't been following that closely, both the mayor's race and the governor's race. What are you looking for tonight?
Well, the governor's race, Willie, is a race that no one seems to want to be governor in California. Everyone thought Kamala Harris was going to run. Then everyone thought that Senator Alex Padilla was going to run. And then everyone thought that AG Rob Bonta was going to run. All of them declined. And instead, you have this wide open race with historic amount of spending. And I'm really looking at it. The question is, can Democrats get both two seats and advance to the jungle primary? It doesn't look likely, but there's a shot. Tom Steyer has been rising. It looks like Xavier Becerra has the votes to get to the next round. And the question is, does Steyer go, or does former Fox News host Steve Hilton go? It'll be really interesting tonight. It looks very, very close. And once again, as every race you've been covering, Willie, this is about affordability. This is about people out there saying everything is too expensive and we want someone to come in and fix it. And in the fourth largest economy in the world, California is a really important barometer. In the mayor's race in LA, you have a bunch of very angry Los Angeles voters, especially voters in the Palisades and other places affected by the fire. They're very critical of the incumbent mayor, looking at two challengers, one from the very left and one from the very right. And the question is, who's going to get in that jungle primary runoff in November? It is really unusual in California that we have races this close. Usually the party is decided by now, but it shows you the kind of anger of American voters, and that's no exception in the great state of California.
And Jim, in the mayor's race, Mayor Karen Bass, looking to be reelected, obviously has been justifiably criticized for handling of the Palisades fire last year, and chiefly by Spencer Pratt, who's a name people may know and a face they might recognize from reality TV. How serious a contender do you believe he is, and how worried should Karen Bass be?
Well, she should be very worried no matter who's in the runoff right now. There are people very angry. She's acknowledged those mistakes. She's got to prove to people that this election is about the future, not the past. When I run campaigns, I say to people all the time, these voters want to know where you're going to take them, not where you've been. And she's having a lot of problems with that. I know a lot of people watching this morning are a little freaked out about another reality star rising in American politics. But if you look at Spencer Pratt's social media, Willie, it's the best I've ever seen. I'm not saying he would be a good mayor. I'm not saying he's a great candidate, but he's really taken over this race with some really inventive AI outreach that I think all campaigns on both sides of the aisle can learn from. We'll find out tonight if it's enough to get him to the runoff.
All right, so that actually swings nicely into your new report, this idea that you've been traveling the country since the 2024 election, since President Trump swept back into office, and lessons you learned. Democrats need to learn them pretty quickly here with the midterms about 5 months away. In your latest reporting, you talk about these myths. One, Democrats say that demographics will save us in the long run. That's myth number one. Why is that a myth?
That's a myth because we all thought that the ascendant coalition of Barack Obama was going to save the party. We're going to have more and more young people, African Americans, Latinos voting, and we were going to win the national fight because of it. Until the 2024 election, Willie, you all have reported on this ad nauseum. Donald Trump did much better and got to almost parity with Latino voters, doubled his support with African American voters, did historically well with young male voters. And yet the Democrats sort of ignored the 72% of voters who are white voters and decided it was all about this ascendant coalition. The truth is, Barack Obama won 2 elections because he did both. He excited his base, but he also talked to swing voters and turned them out in big numbers. We have to treat these, what we think are base groups, Latinos, African Americans, young voters, we have to treat them like persuasion targets, not turnout targets. We've got to make our case to them. We didn't in the last election. And if we don't do that in this midterm, Willie, we will lose again.
So, Jim, your second myth is that what works in the midterm will work in a presidential. And you say that Democrats who did very well in 2022 drew some incorrect lessons for 2024. But it also can work the other way, where a presidential, as we head into a midterm year, may not be that instructive.
Yeah, it's really true, Jonathan. In 2022, we won an election on abortion, and that was great, and it was a big upset. But in 2024, we thought it was the same election, and yet abortion was the 7th most popular issue, and we lost the economic argument, which was the number 1 issue, by 12 points. We can't do that. However, when you look at the demographics in midterm elections in 2026, it shapes up much better for Democrats. It is older voters, it is more women voters, especially upper educated voters, where Democrats are doing historically well. So if we can continue to learn the lessons from 2024 and have a midterm election turnout, we could do very, very well. We've just, again, got to do both things, turn our base out and talk to these persuadable voters.
So, Jim, let's go to myth number 3, money. There's so much money around now. What are we going to do with it? What are candidates going to do with it? It leads me to ask you, in terms of absence of money or a lot of money, Spencer Pratt, is his combination of anger and grievance more important than money in terms of reaching voters?
Yes. And Barnacle, I only got up this early for you because you and I really understand these things. And when you look at it, grievance and anger is bigger in American politics than money. But part of what I wanted to say is it's not just about these big national races. People's money goes much further in the races in the House and the governor's races. House races are 16 times more effective if you give in these congressional races because they're not as well funded. And so money is really important in some of these down ballot races that Barnacle and I stay up until, the wee hours of the night following. And especially in governor's or mayor's races. When you look at tonight in L.A., Pratt has really made his own luck, and he did it using social media and not a lot of money. And it is proof that a little anger still drives American politics.
Jim, if Barnacle's telling you he stays up late to watch down ballot races, he's lying to you. He's watching the A's Mariners in extra innings. That's why he's up late. Let's move to myth number 4, Jim. And I think this is a really important one. You're pushing back against some of the pessimism, even fatalism you hear among Democrats, which is that the Trump administration, Republicans now play so dirty, they're going to rig the election or steal the election or perhaps cancel the election in some places with some of the moves they've made. How do you fight against that thinking?
Yeah, it's a big one in the Democratic Party. After our second glass of Chardonnay, a whole bunch of Democrats want to say, oh, he's just going to steal it. And the fact is that's not true. we're looking to make sure this 2026 and 2028 are tamper-proof elections. And the way you do it is go back to Barnacle's local races. You win the Supreme Court races. You win the Attorney General's races. You make sure that the people who actually run the elections, and it's not federal, it is state elections, it is state people who run these elections, you make sure that they're going to run fair elections. And so I'm part of this Democracy Defenders PAC with super lawyer Norm Eisen. We're doing really good work across the country to make sure that the people that are actually running these elections are going to run them fair, and we're winning all over the place. So I do think we're going to have fair elections, even though Donald Trump's going to do everything he can to stop that.
So, Jim, with all this in mind, we've run through these 4 myths that you're trying to bust. Give our viewers, if you would, I know it's 5 months out, but just your view, because you have such good insight on this stuff, of what November might look like. There's obviously huge optimism given the state of the economy and some other tailwinds for Democrats that they'll win the House. I think at this point they'd be disappointed if they didn't. Some hopes, though more difficult, for the Senate as well. How do you see it going as we sit here this morning?
Well, look, I think a couple things. I do think we're the favorites to win the House. It is harder because of the redistricting stuff. Right now we have an 8-point lead in the generic ballot. That's about where we were in 2018. In 2018, we picked up 40 seats. That same map with this 8-point lead, Willie, would give us a 12-seat majority. So I think it's going to be closer than people think. I do think there's a shot, if an outside shot, in the Senate. But what's really interesting is in the states, especially the governor's races, which are incredibly important to the presidential and for who runs this country. I think Democrats are going to have a historically good night and win governor's races all over the country. It's a little bit easier for swing voters to vote both parties in non-federal races than it is in federal races. So I think it is shaping up to be a very good night, but Democrats just have to learn the lessons of the past. We're super good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. We proved that in 2024. And so we just got to double down and do whatever we can to make sure that we start to take some of these levers of power away from Donald Trump. It is the most important thing you could do as Democrats to win the House of Representatives.